Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Golf and Politics. We have just an extraordinary show for you today. Sam Hahn, the co-founder, co-CEO of L.A.B Putters. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I think we just get it out there. I mean, the L.A.B putter, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of a lot of other people, was one of the greatest innovations in golf since, I was a kid, and Great Big Bertha came out, or the Pro V1. I mean, this is just a massive deal. And as somebody that has struggled with putting, especially with putts from 3 to 10 feet, I got a DF3. Before that, I was borrowing my friend's Mez putter, and it's made a big impact in my life. So we'll get into some of that. But why don't you give our audience a little bit of a history of how you got into this industry? Because golf, you didn't start off in the golf industry. I think you still are in the entertainment industry, if I'm not mistaken. So tell us a little bit about your
Correct.
story.
Yeah. Well, first off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and we love doing stuff like this. It's just the best way to get the word out and connect with all the folks that we hope get into some live putters. But so yeah, I've was a musician in a former life. When I was graduated high school, I was walking around the country just kind of couch surfing on all my friends who went off to college and going to their dorms and stuff and playing music on the streets of the different college towns and such. And I landed in Eugene, Oregon, um, I sort of parlayed my playing music into a talent buying agency just because I had booked my own band on a couple of tours and stuff. And this was back before the internet made stuff like that a lot easier. We used to have to make phone calls and proper press kits and all that stuff.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I started booking a venue in Eugene, and eventually I opened up my own place called the Blair Alley Arcade down in the Whitaker district in Eugene. And super cool place, a couple of stages and a bunch of vintage arcade games and stuff. And but all that work left me a ton of time during the day to golf. And so I always loved the game. My dad taught me how to play when I was little, but I wasn't like super into it. I certainly never had any promise as a competitor or anything like that. And then didn't play for quite a few years. And when I was kind of putting down some roots in Eugene, my first place was right next to a place called Laurelwood Golf Courses. Awesome municipal 9-hole course, a bunch of hills, tiny greens, and super fun place to play. And I only started playing because they were dog friendly, and I had a dog, and so I started playing just to run him around. And then I met a couple of kind of like-minded folks who happened to be really good players. And as anybody in golf knows, that's really the only way to get good, is just to
That's
play
right.
with good players. And so when I met those fellas, one of whom is now the head of our player development department, Matt Schuth. I think I was kind of shooting right around 90. And then 2 years later, I was a scratch player, and just went full tilt psycho. And much of my obsession with the game was always around equipment. I always was a big equipment guy. I was always reading up on it and horse trading and tinkering and bending and cutting and screwing around with all kinds of gear all the time. And um, and then 2017, a fellow named Bob Duncan was the teaching pro at Emerald Valley, where I've been a member for 20 years. Public course, but really strong course. It's where the Oregon Ducks play, and very very well respected tournament course in the Northwest. And and Bob was teaching there, and he'd taken a trip to Tasmania to play Barnbogle, whatever that course is called. Um, and he met the inventor's father. So the inventor's a guy named Bill Pressey, and his father, William, is an Australian fellow, and he was there. They connected, and Bob comes home with this putter and insists that I try it. And I had a just completely profound experience with it. The head ended up falling off the putter, and I had to send it back. And Bill, who made the putter, reached out to apologize, and we just got to talking and hit it off. And then a few months later, they were about to close the doors. They'd been at it for a couple years, and just couldn't get the company to go. So I partnered with Bill, and we rebranded as L.A.B in April of 2018, and then that began my journey in the golf industry.
All right, so 2 questions. First, what were you putting with? Like, what was your go-to putter before you 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 met, Bill and tried out?
I had no such thing.
Okay.
I had 50 putters. I counted. I remember counting when we were starting to do the deal. I had 50 putters in my basement at the time that I got my first directed forest. I would say that the three that I spent the most time with, um, two of them with a fairly similar torque profile. One of them was a Rife Abaco, sort of Odyssey #9 shape. Just the heel shafted kind of D-shaped mallet. Full toe hang. I had a Napa that I had done some custom work on, which is like a 8802. And then I had a Rossi, a Rossi 2 actually. And I would kind of cycle between those three. And then a bunch of others kind of in between along the way to the point where I was at a point where I was switching putters every round of golf I played intentionally, even if I'd putted well the day before, um,
Wow.
just to like, because the only success I found was in, the first 12 holes with a new putter, right? And till you get used to it, and then you start doing some screwy shit with it. So yeah, I had a bunch of them. I had putters that I loved that just performed so poorly, and then I had putters that I, hated but performed well, and but yeah, and then I'd always kind of end up back in that 8802 kind of realm whenever I'd get frustrated with stuff, thinking I was simplifying things when in fact all I was doing was making them more complicated.
Yeah, so tell me, I mean, did you have an influence in your life growing up with your parents entrepreneurs? Is this something that just you always were kind of bit with the entrepreneurial bug to do something like this?
Um, So yes and no. My dad's an attorney. He was an attorney. He's retired now. But he was a partner, so he was a boss. Like, so I grew up watching a boss be a boss, and having him, he had employees, and
Uh,
ran the financial division of his firm. And then my mother's absolutely an entrepreneur. She has a wonderful tabletop store in suburbs of Chicago. Sells like really cool, fancy handmade dishes and silverware and stuff like that. And uh, yeah, I mean, it's funny. Like, I've been an employer one way or another since I was 19. Like,
That's right.
I was, the band that I had was my band. I put it all together, wrote and arranged all the music, and took us on tour and did all the stuff. And then, I mean, honestly, the closest thing I ever had to a boss was, I worked at this place, Lucky's, but like, I ran the venue. Like, I didn't, the woman who owned the place didn't know anything about music or venues or anything like that. And so it wasn't, I never punched a clock or anything like that. I've always been in a state of trying to create something and put together teams, and execute on a vision. And as far as like where that came from, um, yeah, I mean, I suppose both of my parents kind of being in charge of their own destinies with the work that they did, probably had some influence there.
Okay. So using your first directed force, it was just the technology being so good, and was there just quick improvement in your own putting that you realized, "I've gotta get this," especially when they, went out of business, that you just realized, "I had to get this to market for other people?" What was the real motivation that, got you out of bed every morning? When it's
I
hard.
mean,
It's hard starting a business like this, right? I mean,
it's really hard, and it was one of those things where, it was only possible because of how naive I was about the industry and about the business in general. So yes, I had a totally profound experience with it. I so the day that Bob made me go play with it, I one putted the first 7 greens, for a total of about 150 feet worth of putts, and then I was by myself. I ran into a group in front of me, uh, and then I just drove right back and ordered one on the spot. The week that it was supposed to come in, I was actually playing a tournament at this place called Wine Valley. And Wine Valley is a really tough course up in Walla Walla. That's just it's just crazy. It's just these crazy greens notoriously like psychotically fast greens. Like for the tournament. I'm sure that they were rolling at 14 plus, and um, terrible place to dial in a brand new putter. But I had it shipped up there, and I think I had 40 putts for a day for the first 2 days, and the problem was all my friends knew I was putter psycho, right? I'm telling him about this giant branding iron, and at the time, like, the putters still looks ridiculous, right? The DF 2.1, but like the branding was bad, and the presentation was bad, and the grip was this hard rubber, and it sounded like shit, and it felt like crap. I mean, it wasn't a nice product, and I'd spent a week and a half telling all my friends, I've found it, I've got it. I'm no longer searching for putters. This is the answer. This is the thing. I'm in. Um, and because I was so dug in on it being the thing is the only reason that it didn't get thrown in the pond. Because what followed after I, got the putter was 2 weeks of the worst putting of my entire life. I mean, like couldn't roll it into a swimming pool from 3 feet. Really, really, really bad. And so the 13th hole at Emerald Valley is a beautiful, par five along the river. It's sort of like it's kind of like the reverse of Azalea at Augusta, where it's a giant kind of horseshoe fade hole instead of a horseshoe hook hole, and it's really difficult to get it on in two. And I do it once or twice a year, and so I knock it to 5 feet, and I got a 5 foot eagle putt, 4 feet foot eagle putt. I mean, something no brainer of a putt, and I didn't even touch the hole. And this is with the director for this is with the Reno, and I'm by myself, and I literally just like fell to my knees. I lay down on the grass, just questioning my entire existence, and that's when it occurred to me. I know for a fact, because of what I've seen, with the revealer and with everything, that this putter is staying square by itself. So if I'm missing putts that bad, we know it's something that I'm doing and not the putter. Like, we can't be searching for putters anymore. I had assumed that putters, that a face balance putter or whatever, that they were effectively working to stay square themselves. I now know empirically they don't, and I know that this one does. So I know it's my fault. And that 2 weeks of sort of like um, just unwinding everything that I thought I knew about putting, deconstructing, all of my theories, my own technique, my own, setup positions and motions and all that stuff in order to let the putter face stay square instead of keep it square. That 2 weeks of doing that is the reason we're here. Because if I hadn't gone through that journey of hating it and then figuring it out, I never would have figured out how to talk about it. And that was my job, right? You know, Bill invented the technology, and it's awesome. I mean, it's perfect. But getting something to market and talking about it is a challenge. And that, having gone through the journey myself, like the old, hair club for men commercials, uh, I think it lent a lot of credibility to the messaging that we went so hard at.
That's great. So you get this thing going and it doesn't happen overnight. I mean, I know in a lot of people's minds, it looks like it happens overnight, but 2018 was 7 years ago. Um, what was, what were some breakthroughs for you before you had guys playing this putter on tour, before everybody was talking about it? How did you really get it out into the market and start spreading the message about the technology and the putters?
So, it's pretty funny. So before I got into lab, another endeavor of mine, I was actually headed into politics. I was
Really?
I was considering running for mayor in Eugene, and I was the chairman of the Whitaker Neighborhood Association, which the way our charter works is basically the neighborhood associations feed city council feeds the agenda, um, and I had in the neighborhood that I was involved with, was a really, really complicated neighborhood. It's an awesome place with a bunch of artists and fairly low income. And I mean, we know the story, right? The cool hip neighborhood that's also a little bit edgy, all of a sudden gets a little gentrified. Home prices go up. The artists that made the place so wonderful get kicked out, and so um, uh, it was a complicated neighborhood, and having been in the promotions business and really, relying heavily on social media, I realized that the best way to get the neighborhood all working together actually was to make a Facebook group. I made a Facebook group, and turned into a, cesspool shit show of epic proportions. And but I was the chairman, right? And so I needed to keep it cool. I wasn't able to, go hard, and everybody knew who I was, and I developed the ability to create respectful discourse online, in a way that was very applicable to Lab. So now it's 2018. We have no marketing dollars. We've got nothing. All we have is the putter, which is incredible, but nobody knows about it, and the people that do know about it think it's ridiculous because it looks like a branding iron and it doesn't say Titleist on it, and whatever. So the only way that Bill and I were able to promote the product was online. It was just in social media. And so, the first big break that we got was, a much, much smaller break than you would think. At the time, Bill and I are selling 5, 10, 15 putters a month. I mean, it's nothing. We're trying to figure out what to do with our lives, and we're just always in the Facebook forums and arguing with people about the technology and all this. And then, and there was this one really loudmouth dude. His name's Brett Douglas. They call him the Birdman. And every time we'd make a post or anything, he's in there just trashing us, just absolutely trashing us and trolling the crap out of us. And he would always end every one of his comments with, "But hey, if you want to send me one, I'll give it a try." And we were always telling him to piss off. And then apparently he came across one on eBay. And I wake up one morning, and there's a Birdman drenched in sweat, and it's such an epic video. I got to dig it up so I can share it more readily. But basically, he was like this loudmouth in all of the different forums, and Golf Traders and Club Junkies and WRX, all these different things. So and he had his Lab moment, and realized that despite he had been talking crap for a year and a half, he picked it up, and then all of a sudden, just that one dude who's a nobody from nowhere. I mean, he lives in Tennessee, and he's like, he's a scratch player or 2 handicap, something like that. But, 60 plus years old, and he's just a
Wow.
dude that hangs out online all the time. But all of a sudden, just that one, because everybody had been watching us argue for a year and a half, when he got his and sort of, tipped his cap to us, all of a sudden we're selling 50 putters a month, or 60 putters a month. And then it starts to create some conversations on WRX, and it was our vigilance online, and it was the fact that, I mean, I'm still on social media 24 hours a day, just scanning, because it's the best market research on the planet. It's real-time market research, what people are saying and what they're feeling. And you get accustomed to sort of translating people's online bravado into what they're actually trying to say, and the feedback has been, amazing. So it spread really, really organically. And then I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, is, a horrible tragedy, obviously, but COVID, was a big deal for us because we were a direct to consumer brand with an online presence, and all of a sudden everybody had nothing to do except be at home on their phones watching Instagram. And so we were kind of ready for it. We were right there, for what turned out to be, an extraordinary boom for the game, during COVID. So that was a big part of it. And then, I mean, along the way, I mean, when I tell people about, one day when I write the book is called Lucky Breaks. I mean, it just, like most things like this, right? These, businesses that explode from nowhere and everything. Sure, there was good decisions. There's no question we made some really, really smart decisions along the way, and put ourselves in a position to succeed in any number of different scenarios. But we also got some crazy lucky breaks. I mean, just things that belong in movies, and all of it works together to make something like this happen.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible. Well, I want to let me tell you a little of my experience. Like I said, I've never been a great putter. I ended up getting a Scotty Cameron putter that I loved. And it wasn't just that I loved the putter; it had a special sentimental value. Of a very good friend of mine who I'd referred a bunch of work to, his grandfather passed away, and he collected Scotty Cameron putters. And after his grandfather died, he inherited those putters. and he came to my house and gave me one as a thank you for the business that I'd referred him. And so it meant so much to me that he
Oh, I
gave me
love
one of those
that.
putters.
What
But
was
I
it?
also, what's that?
What was it?
It was a studio stainless steel toe, just a standard, Scotty
Newport 2?
Cameron Newport too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I loved it. And I actually, I was at a member guest, ball striking the best I ever was hitting the ball and kept missing short putts to win matches at this member guest. And during a lunch break, I went into the pro shop. The Super Stroke grips had just came out. I said, put the fattest Super Stroke grip on there you can. I switched to the claw right then and there, and I stopped missing short putts. I stopped yipping on short putts at least, but I still struggled so bad from 3 to 10 feet, and my numbers were constantly poor. I end up my golf club. I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. My golf clubs got stolen right as I moved to Tulsa, which is another traumatic experience. And I ended up
With that
replacing with
Cameron in it?
with the Cameron in it. 30 years of stuff that I've saved in my golf bag, coins from my grandfather and other people.
Hmm.
But I replaced it with a 2-ball putter. And I don't putt bad, but I'm not putting great. And my buddy gets a mez, and we're at these. We belong at this indoor club, and we're in there, and they're selling L.A.B putters. And I'm looking at the
What's the club?
directed force. It's called Poor Quality. It's a indoor
Yeah.
simulator club in Tulsa. And so I'm in there looking at directed force, and Ross McDonald owns the place. I'll
You probably
clean it
know
up for I'm
you probably crossed paths with Eugenia then, huh?
Oh yeah, I love there's nothing better than watching him do a TrackMan combine, because if
Yeah.
you look at my TrackMan combine, it's like, shotgun patterns. But I'm a decent player. I'm a
No,
3.
those are
But
great
watch him
guys over
play,
there.
it's like rifle. I mean, he just
No, he
hits the
is a
spot every time.
prolific ball striker. He
Yeah.
is, he's the real deal.
And he's a tinkerer too. I mean, he tinkers with everything
Oh,
with
believe you me,
Ross
we
all the
know.
time.
Oh, I think he's certainly in the top 5 of tour professional L.A.B inventory for sure.
That's incredible.
We've
That's
built
great.
that dude no less than about 30, 40 putters, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, so
He's
you
a
know
good man.
Ross. So I'm
I
gonna
know
clean
Ross,
this up
yeah.
for the audience, and my son is our producer, so I'm not gonna say everything that Ross said. But to sum it up, I'm looking at DF and I'm like, man, Ross, it really looks weird. And he goes, I don't care if it looks like shit. It makes putts, right? Like, and that's the cleanest version of what he said. And he made me laugh, and I said, all right, I'll give it a try, because Jefferson had an extra mez, and so I'm using my buddy's mez putter, and we used to play a lot of wolf at our old club, and Sandy's, point, polies are a point. I was making so many polies that I was being accused of hitting it in the sand and hitting it further, like 10 feet away from the hole, just to make the putt. And so I fell in love with the technology, because it was the first time in my life I felt confident over 7-foot putts. So I went to up to Bentonville, Arkansas, and got fitted. And for the podcast, we recorded our fitting. And
Oh,
I
nice.
actually I felt like the fitting was pretty boring. I'm like, nobody's gonna watch this. 750,000 views. That tells you how great your product is, and people are searching it out on the internet. So it
Right.
helped our podcast, because people are watching it. And some of the clips have just gotten hundreds of thousands of views. So I ended up getting a DF3. It took about 12 weeks to come in. I go over to
Sorry about
Arkansas
that.
to pick it up. I come back to Tulsa, meet up with my buddies who'd already played the front 9. We get to the back 9. First hole, I make a 33-foot putt. First putt I ever made with it. Second hole, I make a 22-foot putt. And look, I've had some bad putts. I just got back from Oregon. I played Bandon Dunes last week, and the Poana greens,
Nobody putts well out there.
they ate my lunch. But
Nobody putts well out there. We got a lot of people that stop at our factory to tour it on the way down and get
okay,
fitted and stuff like that. And if people end up with something that they can take home with them on the stock, I tell them, like, don't use it at Bandon for your first time out. You'll be mad. And just
I
it's
honestly, I
impossible.
can't remember the last, because I don't get out to the West Coast to play a lot of golf, and I can't remember the last time I played Poana greens. I mean, I felt like I was
I
trying
mean,
to
they're
crush
POA,
the
but
ball.
POA's good. I mean, like, POA, especially these days with all the chemicals, like, if you played our place on the way, on the way down Emerald Valley, like, that's POA, and they're pure as hell. Seaside POA is a different thing, and then
Okay.
Seaside POA that gets tracked by tens of thousands of different strains from all over the world. That's what makes that
That's
place such a
yeah,
mess.
makes sense.
And the greens are so big, and, like, this is kind of their thing, right? It's like, it's not really about putting. It's about the
It's
experience and
and it
getting
was
it
a great
somewhere
experience.
near the hole.
Got to play all 5 all 5 courses. But my next question for you though is, you had these breakthroughs you're talking about along the way. Some of them
Mhm.
seem small. And then like, what's going through your mind on Sunday of the US Open when JJ Spaun makes arguably the greatest putt in major championship history? I mean, what is going through your mind and the mind of your employees? Like, what kind of celebration was that for you guys?
So, I mean, it was a weird day, right? I mean, so when the day started, certainly from as far as the lab leaderboard was concerned, everybody just assumed it was Adam's day. They just assumed it, I mean, I think he was one back or something like that in the final group with Sam Burns. Um, and he was playing with just such like passion, like he was mad when he missed shots and he was stoked when he was making stuff. And he was, we were seeing a very different Adam. So, and our relationship with Adam is a lot longer and a lot deeper. I've known him for a long time now. And man, we were pulling for him. And then, obviously we were certainly aware that JJ was right there, but we all saw what happened the first 5 holes. It was like, could not have been more explicit a message from the golf god saying today is not your day, homie. And 5 bogeys in 6 holes, including 3 of the worst breaks I've ever seen consecutively
Right.
ever. I mean, just terrible, like just so bad. Um, and then Adam was kind of, he was hanging in there and doing all right. And then I rem and I guess, give more, clear, accurate color to your question. I don't watch tournaments that have implications for lab anymore. I don't watch with people. I just can't do it. It's too
Right.
it's horrible for them. I mean, I'm a neurotic mess and I'm pacing and I scream at the TV and I'm smoking and it's bad. And so I'm all by myself. And then the rain delay hit. And the minute it hit, a light bulb went off in my head. This is what JJ needs. And then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was weird, you know, cosmic screwery or whatever, but all of a sudden my attention definitely very much shifted to JJ. And I just had a funny feeling. And then sure enough, they got back out on the golf course and it's far enough removed from it. I don't remember um what the numbers was, but he made an extraordinary number footage of putts on the on
Was
the
just
last 7
crazy.
holes or something. I
Yeah.
think it was like 136 feet of putts. But the one where I knew he was going to win um, was 17. He had a eagle putt, I think.
Right. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he drove
it
the
was a
green.
drivable par 4. Yeah, he
Mhm.
drove it up on the green. And where JJ had struggled in the past pre-lab, and certainly early with his lab, was hitting putts with some authority and giving him the energy that they need to hold the line. And he had this eagle putt, and he ran it 4.5, 5 feet by, and um, and when when we talked about it, it's hard to embrace the statistical reality. But if you're a tour player, you're holing out from 4 feet at a little over 90% of the time. More than 9 out of 10 times you're making the 4 foot comebacker, but it's still very, very hard to get yourself to hit putts, 2, 3, 4 feet by the hole.
Especially
And
on 17 on
right. And
Sunday at the US Open at
For
Oakmont,
sure,
right?
for sure. And majors are a little bit of a different story. We don't want to be running those by 4 feet, but certainly the run of the mill tour events. And he got this thing by the hole. I mean, he gave that eagle putt a good look. And then he hearted the 5 foot comebacker. I mean, like it just went right in the middle with a little bit of pace. And that was when I knew it kind of didn't matter. He was going to find a way to get on the green on 18. And I knew he was going to two putt. Now, that said, when it ended up 65 feet away, I was like, oh shit, that's a
Yeah.
long ass putt. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
and again, going
That's the other thing. I
statistically,
mean, the percentage of 3 putts, even for tour players from that distance,
Way
is pretty high.
way more likely to 3 putt than certainly to 1 putt. But yeah, I mean, yes, there was no walk in the park. And then, like, when Victor's ball landed right behind his, I don't know if you remember that, like, Victor's approach ended up right next to his ball, just 1
Golf
foot
God's giving
longer.
them something a little back for what they took away at the
100%.
beginning, maybe. I mean,
100%.
I
And
love
then
what he
we're
talked about where he said it wasn't even necessarily looking at his line, just on a putt
speed.
that length, feel like you could almost feel what the speed would be because Victor made a good
100%.
putt. And that's the other thing. Victor could have made a terrible putt and really screwed with his
Confused him
mind.
even
Yeah.
further. Yeah, absolutely. No, that's exactly right. If he runs that thing by, 8 feet or something, you can guarantee JJ's, leaving it 12 feet short. And yeah, when I saw Victor's ball cozy right up next to his, I mean, I just got so excited. And then I swear to God, by all that is holy, I knew that that thing was in off the face. Like the second he hit the putt, I knew it was in. It just had that magic feeling. And
It was so magical in my mind, like having Robert McIntyre, who seems like one of the nicest guys in the world, sitting there hoping to go to a playoff and just be like smiles and happy, see the true sportsmanship of some of these guys,
totally.
right? And then Hatton doing his interview, and he's like, "Oh shit, he made it! Unbelievable,
Oh,
he made the
oh,
putt."
he's
Yeah,
hoed it.
yeah,
He's
he's owed it.
hoed it.
Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
that was great, so good.
That was good.
Well, you said something. I heard you say in an interview one time that you want Lab to be about putting, not necessarily just about putters.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you know, I mean, I think, and certainly no shame about it at all. But I mean, at OEM, an equipment manufacturer's job is to sell product and get it out the door. And once it's out the door, the job is over. I think through a lot of the engagement on social media and really drilling in on people's experiences and sort of helping them through the lab hangover that a lot of people
Mhm.
experience, where all of a sudden the sort of weirdness of not feeling the putter twisting on them can throw people and everything. Um, we've all, at Lab found a lot of satisfaction out of the journey beginning when you buy a lab putter. And and it is a whew, you able to hear that?
I am, a
Yeah.
little thunder and lightning back there.
Yeah. It's been scaring the shit out of my poor pooch right here. Frida, say
Oh,
hello to the world.
hello.
Um um and W I've gotten an extraordinary education on putting in the last 7 years, and, what I've learned is that there's a lot of applicable technique, and then I've also learned that to use our putters, it's a little bit of a different thing, and we would kind of be jerks just to send people off to go figure it out themselves. So, we're looking forward to developing, um ways to continue the interaction with our customers, to continue to get the feedback on how they're putting and to help them. Um, and uh, and I think that what's fun about our brand too is that we just make putters, and who knows, maybe someday in the future we'll get into other product lines, but right now we just make putters. So we got the time. Like I have the time to go hang out with instructors. I have the time to go make content, with whether it's aim point people or tour read people or stuff like that. And, and to no specific financial benefit, we just want to help people putt better, and the putter's a part of that. And so the more we can kind of get people integrated into the sort of lab ecosystem, I think the better people are going to putt.
I don't know, probably if there's more content out there and more people talking about it, the more they're going to stick with it and recommend it and maybe try other lab putters. So, yeah,
For
I think that
sure.
makes a lot of sense. Well, so Ben Hogan once said that golf and putting are 2 different sports. Golf's through the air, you're hitting golf balls through the air, golf swing, and then putting is a whole completely unrelated move. So, like, you're a good player. I looked you up on the USGA app. You're a plus handicap, which I aspire to be. So I'm hoping we have this little segment called the Parker Improvement Project because Rob's a plus handicap. I'm not. Started as a 5. I'm down to a 3. I'm not quite to where I want to be yet. We had a big match. I had to play him straight up. He wouldn't give me strokes, and I took him to the 18th hole and lost. But,
Oh boy.
how much time should a golfer that wants to get better spend practicing their putting versus on the
The full
range
swing.
working on their golf swing? Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on the player, and it all depends on, what skills within the putting realm that they need to develop. I mean, there's uh let's stick with the 5 and under crowd, right? So if you're a 5 handicap, presumably you have a putting stroke, that's relatively on plane with a relatively square face, reasonable alignment. Um, what I recommend mostly is practicing decision making. So with the lower handicappers, baby.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, she's so scared right now. Um, what I recommend is practicing decision making, meaning not. I think that there's a human instinct to get everything categorized, boxed, clean, consistent as often as we possibly can. And so, take the aim point, green reading system, for instance. The original one that had the chart that was telling you where to aim based every single putt on hitting it 18 inches past the hole. There are certain putts that you shouldn't hit 18 inches past the hole. There are certain putts that you should hit that absolutely have their last rotation into the hole. And in my opinion, there's certain putts that you should hit 6 feet by if they don't go in, if you actually want to make the putt. And so I love sort of nuanced speed drills for your lower handicap players. So one of the best ones is a drill I saw Jordan Spieth do some years ago, where he had about, I don't know, 8 to 10 feet. Found himself like probably a 3% slope,
Okay.
so fairly significant, and then kinda went pin high on it, and he did it on both sides of the hole, so it was right to left and left to right. He had 3 balls. He'd hit one at absolute dead nuts drip pace, the next one at about 18 inches past pace, and then the next one he'd hammer. And, so that he was always in control of how he was gonna hole that putt. And I think that and what that does is that creates an element of athleticism,
Yeah.
in what you're trying to do and reacting to a target. What I think that most good players do to a fault is they try to get really robotic. Like, okay, I've lined my lineup. There's the target I'm hitting. All I have to do is make this putting stroke, and everything should work out okay. When it's not a science. Like I mean, it is to some degree, but like there's like, okay, well, if you're playing 18 inches past the hole, like Bandon's a perfect example. What about that giant chunk of POA between you and the hole on the 6 footer? If you're going to try and die a putt in with a giant chunk of POA in it, you're just saying, hopefully I'll get lucky.
Right.
Versus if you hit it 4 feet by, the POA is not going to make a difference.
That's
And
right.
these are the decisions that we need to make as good players. And I see a lot of block practice. I see a lot of, chalk lines and sewing needles and stuff trying to get people to just hit a single linear putt the same way over and over and over again. And I don't see it improve people's putting.
That makes a lot of sense. So to sum it up, working on your athleticism really and getting feels is really important
Right.
if you're going to be a good putter, in your opinion.
And
All right, that
making it, yeah, and making like, so the best putt I've ever seen hit in competition, in my opinion, um, was the 4 footer that Phil Mickelson holed on the 71st hole at Kiawah. And so he had 4 feet, and he's leading the tournament, I think, by one at the time. And he'd been using his blade and putting conventionally all week. Just regular, reverse overlap grip or whatever what it was. Inexplicably, just before he pulls the trigger on this putt, turns his hand around and grips it claw and knocks it in. And like all the announcers are, of course, jump in, and they're like, oh, he must have been nervous and felt like he was getting twitchy. And it's like, bro, you ain't any more nervous on that one than the other, however many putts he'd hit so far. And then come to find out, the ball had come to rest in a little bit of a depression. And he happens to know, just through all of his practice and all of his studies, that when he grips a claw, he adds a little bit more loft through impact. So he gripped a claw to loft the ball out of the hole, so that in case he smashed it down into the hole, that it didn't squirt off, in the wrong direction, which when the greens get really greasy that way, can be gnarly. The point is, he had the presence of mind and was so focused on how to get that ball into the hole that he solved a little riddle and something that he noticed, versus the rest of us who have a high pressure putt like that. We're like, just make a good stroke. Just don't screw it up. Just don't screw it up. Just make a good putt. Make your normal stroke. Just take it back. Be slow. Keep your head down. We're not thinking about a target. We're thinking
Right.
about not screwing up. And he was so focused on a target that he had the presence of mind to switch his grip in order to loft, get the ball out of this little hole. Like that's mind blowing athleticism. That's
Yeah.
mind blowing, tour level focus on what putting is.
There's a great video out there, I don't know if you've seen it, of Mickelson plays 9 holes, and it's just stream of consciousness. Everything that comes to his mind, everything that he considers, everything that goes through what club he's going to hit on every single shot, and he shoots 30.
Yeah.
And it's a lot, but it's not robotic by any stretch. I mean,
No.
his mind is constantly thinking, and that's through years and years of practice, and he understands exactly what the
I,
ball's
I
gonna do and
mean,
react. It's incredible.
I've had the good fortune to play with him, and we have a nice relationship, and we talk here and there, and I've always been a huge fan, and I've always, had it in my head that he had the highest golf IQ in the history of the game, and getting to know him has only served to confirm
That's
not
great.
only that that's true, but he's beyond what anybody could imagine. I mean, the way what he does. Now, you don't need to do that. You don't need to be Phil to play good golf. I mean, I've also hung out with DJ a little bit, and he has a very, very different mental process than Phil does. But you know, you find your way, um, and at least on the greens, I think that we've gotten to a place where I think we chase a relatively unattainable level of perfection in putting. And I think it doesn't serve us. I think it serves us to be more embracing of the inconsistencies in the greens, and the situations that we find ourselves in, the way our body's reacting to those situations. These are the things that make good putters great, is just awareness of those things. It's not making a perfect putting
Sure.
stroke.
I would wonder if Phil got to play on the Live Tour in a major championship by Phil's book of rules. I wonder when he would pull out the Lab versus the Tiger Slayer, and, I mean, it's unbelievable how many clubs he carries around in a practice
Oh,
round.
man, it's nuts. I mean, so he's got, lives in, Carlsbad area, and, he's got his own golf cart that's always got 2 staff bags on it, his 2 staff bags on it, unless he's playing with somebody. But if it's just him riding the cart, he's got 2 full staff bags, each
That's
with
great.
18 clubs, 20 clubs apiece in them, and just always, always screwing around. It's
He's
awesome to
always been
watch.
my favorite. I've cheered for him since I was a little kid. He was just, and I don't dislike Tiger. I mean, I love Tiger. I mean, Tiger's Tiger. He's an icon, but, if there was a chance to cheer for Phil or Tiger, I was a Phil guy.
Same. If
But,
you'd asked me 8 years ago whose phone number I would prefer to have, Phil's or Tiger's, I'd have said Phil in a heartbeat. Just
and
so much
I
more
mean, look,
interesting.
you back up what everybody I've ever met that's met Phil Mickelson says that he's one of the nicest people in the world, and,
Oh,
just
dude,
treats
he's
people
been
so well.
so well. I mean, he has gone so
Okay.
far out of his way for us, and for no reason. I mean, um, he's pals with Grant, and that helped. We have a nice relationship with Grant, and I think that had something to do with it. But I mean, my goodness, he's gone above and beyond. I got nothing but nice things to say about Phil.
That's so great. Well, you've made a major move business-wise. If you wanna touch on that, that'd be great, but I heard you in another interview talk about how the tariff situation, and this is golf and politics, so I guess this will be our foray into politics. How did that affect the sale? And through this time, did you have other golf companies trying to come and buy you up, and it wasn't the right time or wasn't the right person right company to sell to?
No, we never really had any significant interest from any other OEMs. I had a few conversations with the folks over at Callaway, but never really progressed anywhere. Um, Look, I think most of the OEMs, just as we're, seeing with all the copies that they're making of our stuff, like, it's pretty rare. Like, they really don't buy technology, because where they're at, they're in, not never, but it's pretty rare, because most of the time they know they can just copy it, and the realities of IP and protecting patents and everything is just so laborious and costly and all the stuff that they're generally fairly well protected. And they work with their engineers to figure out little loopholes and all kinds of crap. So no, it wasn't the OEMs wouldn't have come around. Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, our ascent, from a market share standpoint is unlike anything ever, really. Like, in a specific category, there's never been a nobody from nowhere that's, all of a sudden assumed 20% of the putter market. I'd be curious to know if we'd have stayed, kind of steadily rising 5 to 6 to 7, if somebody would have swooped us up just to avoid losing market share. But at this point, I think we're too valuable. So they, wasn't really them that were snooping around, and we weren't particularly interested in selling to anyone because we loved the company. We didn't want to
It's great.
put somebody else's logo on it. We love our, everybody that works at Lab loves working there. We got a cool scene, so there was no real
But then
interest
you guys
there.
marketing and logo and even the head cover is so great. Um,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic.
we didn't want anybody else to have
Yeah.
have their hands on that. We love it too much. So, but we did need help. I mean, we definitely needed help, and so we were stoked when we found El Catterton. We're taking a lot of crap online for, and rightfully so. I mean, historically, when a company sells to PE, it usually does spell the beginning of the end. If you check these guys out, that is definitely not the case with their portfolio of brands. They've done unbelievable things with a lot of really cool premium brands. So we're stoked on that. Um, and then what was your? Oh yeah, tariffs. Definitely not my wheelhouse as far as how it's been mitigated. We have an incredibly talented operations team, headed by a guy named Mike Beal, who's I mean, just the man. Uh, and the writing was on the wall for a while. We were really lucky. Uh, we were really lucky that um, a good portion of our product was already made in the United States. So, yeah, grips, head cover, shafts, these things definitely all of a sudden were a lot more expensive than they were, but those weren't the most expensive components that we had. So, it wasn't a huge issue. I think one of very few, we haven't had to raise prices. We haven't had to do anything like that. Um, but yeah, I mean, I won't bore you with what I know, which I'm sure is not completely accurate on the tariff mitigation measures that were put in place long before the tariffs, took effect. We were in a really really good spot. It was honestly kind of like COVID, where for the same reasons, like everybody else's supply chain got so screwed up, and because we were still manufacturing in the United States at that time, like I think I used to use the Bubba Gump shrimp boat as the example where, the big storm hits and they were the one boat that, survived, and now all the shrimp was left for them. We were the same way where, we had an operations guy at the time, a fellow named David Kelly, who saw the writing on the wall, and literally bought up every steel shaft he could find anywhere in the country. I mean, we just straight stockpiled tens of thousands of shafts in his garage, to the point that we didn't have any COVID issues the way that everybody else did. And so, just been really lucky with the talent that's been on our team, and the way that they look out for the company, and the way that they're thinking ahead. And
Well, you
so it
keep saying
hasn't been a
lucky, and
huge
I
thing.
feel like I need to push back on that, because I can just get this sense talking to you. I mean, you're very humble. I'm blown away by humility actually, and it's really inspiring. So like you've obviously worked really hard. I mean, you're just down to earth and it seems to me like you keep things really simple with the business. And that's probably one of the reasons that you've had those lucky breaks. Cause I know in anything in life, I mean, you're gonna have bad breaks and good breaks, but you get more good breaks if you work harder and 99 times out of 100.
Yeah, it's like the Gary Player quote, right? The
All
harder I
right.
practice, the luckier I get.
Yeah.
There's no questions. I've proud of any number of times I've put myself and the company in a position to succeed. But then and then you leave it to the powers that be. But what what I would say that my best skill, that uh, has helped us tremendously in getting us to where we are, is recognizing that which I do not do well. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, or inventors. Inventors fancy themselves as business operators or as managers and such. And I know what I'm good at, and I know what I'm not, and what I'm not good at. And I'm good at finding people. I'm good at people, and I'm good at understanding where I'm going to fall short. And and not all the time, but most of the time, I'm really good at finding the right team to execute on a given vision. And you know, um, for any entrepreneurs out there listening, just like hold fast to a no assholes policy and you will go far.
That's yeah, I like that.
Like it
I like
just,
that a lot.
just work with
Well,
people you like working with.
hey, if you won't mind, I'd love to respect your time, but I'd love to do what we call the Shotgun 9 segment. So we're gonna ask you
Sure.
9 quick questions, like going out for a quick 9 holes, short answers, some will be fun. Let's start easy. What's your favorite golf course in the US?
Marion.
Marion, nice, okay. Favorite
Yep.
golf
Used
course
to,
internationally?
North Barrack.
Okay. Alright. Are you, you do have to answer this question because you brought it up and then we kinda got sidetracked. You were going to run for political office, but you didn't actually run for political office. What were you planning to you were gonna run for mayor of Eugene. Why didn't that come together?
Oh, because of Lab.
Oh, because of
Uh,
Lab, really?
yeah, 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 I mean, it was like it was happening. It was going
Wow,
on,
okay,
and I'm
gotcha.
talking to the right people, and then the opportunity with Lab came along. I knew that was gonna be all my time.
That's great, fantastic. Alright, what is the biggest putt you ever made with the Lab putter?
That's a good question. Um, Fuck, 18-incher to win my club championship in
That's great.
2021. It
Well,
was,
how many club
um,
championships have you won?
just the one, and it was,
Well, you got a long
so
ways to go to catch up with our president, who's got, like, 24, right? That's,
well, I need to own 25 more golf clubs, I think, and
Mhm.
that's how you get that done. But I won the club championship in 2021 with prototype number one of the Mez. And it had come off the mill like a day before the tournament started. I put it right in the bag. I put it okay the first day. The second day, I had 9 putts on the back nine. I was down 4 standing on the 12th tee. I had 9 putts on the back nine, and I had to wait to hit this 18-inch putt for like 10 minutes while my playing opponent was screwing around. It was just like, it was brutal. And that was the first and last time I've ever putted well with a Mez putter.
Really?
Yep. So I would say
So
that one, and then the
do
only
you do tinker much with the putters? Even to this day, like,
constantly, I
constantly, still
constantly,
tinker,
yeah.
yeah.
And so we started prototyping in house about 3 years ago. My putting's actually gone downhill since, because like I go to every round I play, I'm showing up with 3 or 4 putters, and which I have to. That's the job. I'm testing, and we're prototyping and whatever. I don't tinker for the sake of like, maybe this one's the answer, like, no, it's more, it's just work. But it doesn't lend itself to terribly consistent putting. And then the only other putt that comes to mind when you ask that question is, do you know Random Golf Club? Eric Anders
Yes.
Lang and
A
Random Golf
lot
Club.
is
So
huge inspiration for me starting a podcast with Rob, 'cause I think he does such great content. It's
he's
so good.
wonderful, and he's become a really good friend over the years. And I did a mad scramble with him in New York. And so there's this par five, and he and I were the only two balls that to knock it on, the only two people out of 130 to knock it on the green, me
Wow,
and Eric. It was
that's
amazing. So
incredible.
we both pick it on. We end up choosing his. He goes first and makes the putt, and he misses it, and it's like sticky and wet. It was like 90 degrees and humid and kind of rainy. And I mean, it was just this big sloppy mad scramble. And I made a 20-footer for eagle, like in front of the 120 people, and
Wow,
big uproar and everything. It was like the most exciting
that's incredible.
putt I've ever hit in my life.
I'm almost embarrassed to say you said you putt with the Mez. I actually putted really well with the Mez when I was borrowing my friends, and that's what I thought I was going to buy, but I really love the feature of just being able to with the DF3, when
Ball
somebody
scoop is
gives me
real,
a
bro.
2-footer, I just get right in there and pick it right off with the putter. I like that feature.
For sure.
Okay, so of all the tour players that are using Lab putters, which one, in your opinion, has had the greatest improvement since switching to Lab?
That's a good question. Um, I mean, statistically speaking, JJ, I mean, he had never, yeah, he had, I don't think he'd ever finished inside the top 100 in strokes gained putting. He ended up finishing the season 70th. And only because he didn't putt particularly well in the playoffs. He got up to 30th in strokes gained putting at one point this year, which was rarefied air for him. The statistics don't tell the whole story. Oh yeah, and obviously, I'm sorry, Lucas Glover, statistically
Oh,
speaking,
yeah.
and
Jeez.
in reality,
I should have known that one. He had the yips
r
beforehand,
right.
so, I mean,
Oh,
that's, yeah.
gnarly. No, that was it was life-changing for him. That was a whiff on an obvious answer there. And he still putts pretty well with it and, doesn't yip and stays well enough. Well, one of the things that's tough for statistics, the better ball striker you are, the worse your putting stats are, period. Because you're, hitting a lot of 30-footers because you're hitting greens more often than guys who are missing greens that have an 8-foot par save and pick up a half a shot making that versus you losing a, .1 every time you two putt from 30 feet. So,
Mhm.
so your Adam Scotts, even though he, statistically ranks pretty high generally, didn't have a great year this year. JJ Spaun, Lucas Glover, guys who are just prolific ball strikers. You rarely see them up in the top 20. And for your listeners there, go look at the top 25 in strokes gained putting, and absolutely it'll be a few names that you recognize, and then go look at the top 25 in strokes gained approach, and it's pretty much the top 25 in the world. Is what you see. So, yeah, I would, yeah, JJ, Lucas, um, Ricky's been pretty up and down with it. Adam's been great. This year aside, it's actually kind of a bummer. I mean, he
Was
worked
he
with
the
us pretty
first on
hard.
tour to use a lab putter?
He was not the first on tour to use a lab putter. At least for multiple events, the first person on tour was actually Vaughn Taylor.
Okay.
And that was, Vaughn was great, and he actually really helped us because he's a very well-respected putter out there, and if he was switching, everybody was like, okay, versus one of your guys that switch every 10 minutes. Nobody really looks at them. But Adam had a rough year because, he helped us design that Oz putter, and he loves it. But he didn't putt very well with it, and he ended up getting back to his mez and putting a little better. But, yeah, long-winded answer. Sorry about that.
Well, Jeff Shackelford was on our show a while back. In his book, he talks about course being fun, being able to take your dog to the course.
Yeah.
Rob takes his dogs to the course because he probably spends more money than anybody at his club hosting events. They kind of let him do what he wants. I just joined a club, but I don't think they're going to let me bring my dog on the course. But why is this not a more common practice? And is it more common on the West Coast? Because there's very few courses in the
No,
East and
it's
the
not.
Midwest that lets you bring a dog.
I mean, I mean, honestly, it's just lawsuit culture, man. It's just
Yeah.
liability, and you see it in Scotland all the time. People have dogs out there all the time. I mean, St. Andrews is a dog park on Sunday. Like I don't think that you can go out there and bring your dog to play 18 holes, but like it's much more common out there, and it just kind of sucks with, yeah, just chain of liability, and like even our course, Emerald Valley, the pro and the super both had dogs. And then a couple neighbors started showing up with little ones that would just stay in the cart. And there was like a couple of bigger ones. And then, two of these dogs got into a little scuffle, and then no dogs, I think. But it is a shame. It is such a wonderful thing. And if people cared enough to train their dogs properly, how to treat a golf course properly, it is the coolest. When I used to play Laurelwood all the time, when I first got into the game, I had my dog Bear, and the dude he was a genius of an animal. Absolute genius of an animal. He knew every single hole. He knew exactly where we are. I didn't have to say a word to him for 4 hours. And like, he would just kind of stay off in the rough. A couple of spots, he would go look for squirrels and then come back and find us. Never ran into the bunkers, trained him not to be on the greens. And I mean, it added
That's great.
so much to the round.
All right, who's
Um,
the favorite social media influencer that you've worked with?
who's my favorite social media influencer that I've worked with? I mean, probably Eric. He's not with
I
us
thought, yeah.
anymore. He signed a deal with Ping, and
Mhm.
um, but Eric's a great dude. I mean, he's a really,
Yeah.
really special human being, and we've taken some trips together just to play golf and not have cameras on and everything. And he's a really, really special man. And yeah, I'd probably say him. And then all of them are great.
He's
Grant's
such a good
awesome.
storyteller. I mean, he
Buster's
really is.
he's amazing. He's amazing. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
he's a director, he's a producer, he's a film producer, and you
Right.
happen to get into golf and, merge the two and made from it what he did. And but I will also say, like, they're all awesome. Like, there's none of them that I've met in person after working with them online or phone calls or whatever that I'm like, that kind of, wasn't really who they are or whatever. That whole crew, man, all the creator classic folks or whatever, like, they're really, really good folks. They're a lot of fun to golf with. They're fun to be around. And yeah, I got nothing but good
It's done
things to say
something
about
really
any of them.
special for the game of golf. I mean, there's honestly some of the creators that I'd rather watch that than some of the tournaments. And it's not, I'm not bad mouthing the tournaments. I'm just saying, um, I mean, look, we're golf and politics. Donald Trump playing golf with Bryson DeChambeau got 10 million views. I mean, it's just
Right.
crazy. It's
Way
crazy, right?
way more than
Um,
the Masters. Yeah.
yeah. So it is an interesting space. I mean, Bryson DeChambeau hitting ping pong balls into a shot glass every day, giving away a Bentley. It's a wild deal, and I'm here for it. I think it's good for
I
the
think
game.
I agree, and I think that there's two things that are driving it. One is the short form content, right? Like, who the fuck has 6 hours to watch a tournament from start to finish on a Sunday afternoon? So that's thing one. Thing two, uh, my first order of business during COVID when the world shut down was like, I'm going to watch every single Masters final round. I'm going to watch, so I watched every single one of them start to finish of what was available because they only started broadcasting the front nine, in the last 25 years. And one of the things that I noticed when you start looking at these tournaments in the 80s was like, I mean, you look pretty yoked, but like, I was going to say they look like you and me. They look like average dudes. Like Roger Maltby's, chubby and short, and and who all these guys. And I think golf used to give us the illusion that we could do that. And I think that was part of the appeal of watching golf. And then now they're freak shows, man. They're so fast and they're so strong and they work so hard, and we know how hard they work and we know how good they are, and it's no longer attainable. So now we can watch Busted Jack, who
Right.
are,
Yeah.
two everyday Joes like me and you that like, oh, I can
Right.
do that, and you get to start to be able to relate with it
Yeah,
again.
there's
And
nobody out there burning darts on a,
not
in
that they
between
show on
holes,
TV
and
anyway.
yeah, not anymore. And I mean, John Daly is the last of that kind, it seems like. So
Cabrera. Cabrera
yeah,
apparently went
Cabrera.
through two full packs of Marlboros the day that he won the US Open.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, last question. We ask this to all of our guests. If you had to pick a dream foursome, but in that foursome, there's got to be a politician, a pro golfer, and a celebrity, living or dead. Who is your dream foursome?
Um, Gosh, this is a good question. You said a tour pro, a celebrity, and a politician.
Correct.
Um, Gosh, I think I would have to go on the tour pro. I think I gotta go Lee Trevino. I just want to know what
Oh,
it was like to
nice.
listen to that dude just yammer for 18 straight holes and all the jokes and all the stuff. And he has a underrated golf IQ. I mean, he
Oh,
knows
for
things,
sure.
what makes a golf ball do what it does.
I love
Uh,
watching that father-son tournament every year, giving everybody
Totally.
lessons, and Tiger's
It's
listening
awesome.
to every word he says.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So, and I would say Ben Hogan, but I get the sense he was kind of an ass. So,
Yeah.
so I think I'm going Lee Trevino on that one. Um, on the celebrity, gosh, I'd love to tee it up with Michael Jordan one of these days.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up in Chicago, right in the
Okay.
middle of the whole dynasty, and
Oh, yeah.
also heard maybe not the most pleasant guy to play with, and I certainly don't carry enough cash to play in that game, but I would like to to get that one done one day. And then politician, I think I gotta say Kennedy. I hear he was a pretty good stick, and
See, I heard if he didn't have a bad back, he'd definitely be considered the best golfing president we've ever had. So.
that's what I've heard. I've heard
And
he's a
he
pretty
criticized Eisenhower too much for playing golf too much, and so he was always hesitant to play himself,
hung
is
back a
my
little bit.
understanding.
And that's what I heard
Yeah.
as well. And I think he had a nice golf swing, and just something about that voice. I would love to spend 18 holes just listening.
Yeah.
Well, that ball there was very finely struck, but I don't know if I can find it in the woods. And
That's great.
yeah,
Well, fantastic. Sam, I just wanted to let you know how much we appreciate this. I can already tell you this will be the greatest viewed episode we've ever had because I know that lab video performed with, no advertising behind it, just exploded. Just put the word lab in it and everybody's searching for that stuff. And man, thank you so much. I'm really impressed with what you've accomplished. I'm impressed with your humility and just how friendly you are. So thank you so much. And for all of our listeners, check out, I mean, if you haven't tried a lab yet, what are you waiting for? I mean, it's
yeah, get on it.
definitely worth trying. And for all of you that are listening to our show and watching on YouTube, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Anywhere you get your audio podcast, you can subscribe there. Please go to our website at golfandpolitics.com. Sign up to get on our email newsletter. We'll let you know when new episodes are coming out. Sam, thanks again.
Matt, thanks for having me, pal.
All right. Hey.